I wonder if I'm on board here.
Yeah, that's good.
A while ago here.
We don't have any part-time.
It's not. Well, you don't have to report it.
And I know that the vendors called several times. When the vendors said, like, there's no free cars, so it's still for sale. There's a condo on second. That's come down.
The time is now a little past 6:30 due to technical difficulty, but this is Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. We're here at the Pine Ridge Clubhouse located at 4801 Lakeside Club Boulevard.
May 10th?
May 10th, yes.
I think it's June 20th.
June 21.
June 21?
It's gonna be a good night. Okay. Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. We're here at Pine Ridge Clubhouse located at 4801 Lakeside Club Boulevard for the Pine Ridge at Fort Myers Board of Directors meeting. The meeting is now called to order. Before we stand together to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like all of us to take a moment to honor the memory of longtime residents who passed away since our last meeting. Jane Haverstock and Richard Merrifield, both residents of Pine Ridge for many years. A moment of silence for Jane and Richard. Thank you. Now let's stand and allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And will you please call roll?
Bob Toles,
Here.
Tom Trino,
Here.
Bob Geisler,
Here.
Bill England,
Here.
John Moll,
Here.
Michelle Camp,
Here.
and Ann Urban. I'm here.
And was the meeting properly noted?
It was.
Tonight we have two important guest speakers. We have Javon Matthews from the Lee County Sheriff's Office and Laura Ambrose, insurance agent from Brown & Brown Agency. The format will allow each of our speakers some time to make overall remarks and review the information they have presented. Then after we take some questions from the board members and the audience. First, we're going to have Officer Matthews give his presentation. We don't want him to have to sit through the insurance part of it. You know, you're more than welcome. It's going to be exciting and interesting. There's
may need
a lot of
protection.
questions.
Right.
I don't think she'll need protection, but
Before we start,
Anybody with a hat on that's got a phone, please turn it off.
My mother called.
It'll be long distance.
All right.
Calls in my life.
First, I want to wish everyone a happy National Selfie Day. My name is Sergeant Javon Matthews, and on behalf of Sheriff Carmine Marcino and our employees, men and women of the Lee County Sheriff's Office, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come in and speak tonight. I want to thank our distinguished members of the board for having me, for the invitation, for the relationship that we have thus far, and the opportunity to reach out to the residents. This is a testament to this community to have so many people, especially in the off season, attend a meeting like this. And so it shows the care that you do have for this community. I would like to just take a few minutes to introduce myself. I've been with the Lee County Sheriff's Office since 2007. I'm going on my 16th year. I previously worked 5 years in Lehigh Patrol. I went into Youth Services Division of the Sheriff's Office as a school resource officer. I worked in elementary schools, high school, middle schools. Also on the honor guard in the Sheriff's Office. Before my tenure with the Sheriff's Office, I worked as United States Capitol Police Officer. And what I like to say is before January 6th. I served with the U.S. Capitol Police for 5 years, and before that I was in the United States Marine Corps as a military police officer. So I have a life that has been dedicated to public service, and this is truly what I enjoy doing. I enjoy coming in and speaking with our residents and being part of our community response unit. What we do is build relationships with our communities. Sheriff Marcino, one of his initiatives is to have safer communities, safer schools. And so him being a former community police officer, he feels this is where his bread and butter is. It starts with the residents. If you all don't feel safe, then we're not doing our job. Let's just put it that way. So when we're in these communities, we're trying to make sure that we can answer some of the problems that you have in a way that we can eliminate having to have so many deputies come off of the streets. I mean, they have an important job to do. They're taking care of burglaries, they're taking care of homicides, robberies. So if we can alleviate taking a deputy off the street and being in here representing you as a community to the sheriff, that's what our job is. Our job is to come in and just do speaking with the residents, educating them with what's going on in the sheriff's office. Being a liaison, we hope that we can at least give you all some transparency of what's going on, not only in our agency, but throughout the county. Specifically, what that means is whenever you may need to call the sheriff's office or you may need to email Sheriff Marcino, I'm his direct representative. I have the direct ear of the sheriff. There's nothing that the sheriff would find out that would not get back to me, and there's nothing that gets to me that would not go to the sheriff. So you should have confidence with myself being your liaison in the sheriff's office, that at least you're gonna get the answers you need, and if I don't have them, then I'll go up to the top to get them. Some of the issues that we have in this community is the issues that we have in many of our communities. We all have worries about traffic, the traffic control. We all have issues with trespassing in the complex. We all have issues with, tenant disputes with residents. And so if there's any way that I can answer some of those questions, I would like to do that. We also have crime prevention programs that, as we get closer to I guess this is our off season, right? I think it's fair to say this is our off season. But as we have our out-of-state residents return, we like to do crime prevention programs. We have programs that go along with some of the crimes we see happening in the county. We have a lock it or lose it program, so that, most crimes are crimes of opportunity. Simple things like leaving your doors locked, rolling up your windows, keep your garage doors down. These type of things we like to teach in our presentations. We have a scams and frauds presentation. A lot of our more elderly residents, they are having issues with getting scammed online, especially after Hurricane Ian, with all these illegal contractors running around. We try to educate our residents on what they can expect on these calls and how they can avoid getting scammed. Some of our ladies also appreciate our Ready class. which is a self-defense and empowerment class, teach you basic self-defense tactics, so that if you do find yourself alone and go into your car, you have to protect yourself, to empower you to know that you are protected. And so we've had many programs like that that we would like to bring to this community and educate our residents as we move forward in this season. I know hurricane preparedness is a big issue right now, and we would love the opportunity to come in and speak to our residents on what they can do so that if we have another event, and God forbid, right? If God forbid we have another Hurricane Ian, we can be a little bit more prepared than we were last year. So that's some of our big initiatives. As far as the fun stuff, we have an ice cream truck. Has anybody seen the sheriff's office ice cream truck?
Many times.
So the sheriff has came up with this great idea to take the proceeds of illegal drugs and illegal activities to confiscate their money, to confiscate their property, and to take that money and put it into our community. So we have ice cream trucks that go to the schools. We give out free ice cream to kids. We give out free bike helmets. We do free bike giveaways, things like that, with the money from these bad guys when we shut down their drug houses. So we would love to be able to see that in this community, have the ice cream truck come out. We have an animal cruelty task force that we would love for our animal lovers to bring out some of our rescue dogs and do some type of an event. Because when we do these events, it instills confidence in the community that we're reachable, you know. Honestly speaking, we don't have so many issues in this community with crime, and that's a great thing. And that's one, because our residents, they see something, they say something, they're law-abiding citizens, and we have not had a lot of the riffraff that we've had in other places here. So if we can get in here to do positive events and to do some type of community outreach, I think that's a viable option. I mean, I've spoken to Eric and I said one of the things I can envision for this community is having our residents gather like this and actually having the sheriff out and doing some type of town hall or some type of question and answer session where he can get to know the residents on a more personal level. So I feel like I'm fairly accessible. Eric has my card, and I'll go get some cards. I actually left them in my car, but I'll put them out here. I'm very accessible. If anyone wants to call me, text me, send me an email, you have no problem with me responding. If it's an issue that needs direct attention, I'll come out and I'll handle it, because that's what I want to do. I want you all to know that I'm working for you in this community, and you know, if I don't have the answers, I'll get the answers that you need. So I really appreciate everyone's time tonight. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here, and that's commendable. It shows that you care about this community. And I think if we can continue to have a collaborative effort, we continue to watch one another six, as we say it, I think we will continue to have a safe community. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time. I'm able to answer some questions. I don't know the answers to the insurance stuff, but I'm happy to answer any question you have.
Today,
You're gonna have to stand up.
my name is Antonis Michael Rocho.
1 second, please.
He doesn't have a mic.
No, I think y'all can hear me.
Yeah, but it goes on.
The people on the TV.
We're okay.
Okay.
Can't go whisper.
I thank you.
I don't know how you all assemble this many mics and have no feedback. And I'm not gonna
I'm
ruin
used to
that.
this, so please forgive me. Have you recorded?
Yeah.
Not 2 hours ago.
Name,
My name is Antonis Michael
your,
Rocho.
your address?
9506 Windsor Club Circle. I'm new. Barely a month here. Love this place.
Talk into the mic.
Love this place. Love it. I was over to Circle K getting gas. Circle K is right down the road, walking distance. This has been a hot spot of crime. I don't know if anyone's been here at that Circle K, but every once in a while you have to go there. I've been working so much that I was running on fumes. I was running over to the pool,
And I thought I better get gas, because I didn't want to get gas in the morning to go to work. I knew I couldn't make it. In line, not a big deal. And this guy behind me got impatient because I was trying to log in my loyalty card for Circle K. Slams his Corona 12-pack. Not a big deal. I don't care. I just want to get my gas up. I don't purchase gas at the pump. I don't trust it. Nobody should. That guy followed me because I took too long. Now, most people won't realize it, but I'm half Puerto Rican, so I can understand Spanish quite well. They called me everything under the name. And I lost my temper. And I spoke to him back. And he went after me. I have a concealed weapons permit that I don't carry. I choose not to. I don't think I have to. Really don't think I have to for the most part. But today, I had to pretend that I went in my car and put something in my shorts, that I was going to the swimming pool. And if the guy wasn't so drunk, he would have realized there's no way in hell I could carry anything in my swim shorts. But it was the only thing that kept him from coming after me. And then he went to his car, or his truck, and I just had to pretend I called 911. This happened today, and you can go to that Circle K. It's on, I'm sure it's on camera. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't want to burden her. She works so hard. This Circle K is crime-ridden. It's like a hit and run. You cannot go in there without dealing with somebody trying to sell you drugs, somebody trying to sell you sex.
So the question is how to stay safe in
It
an
is,
unfamiliar
what
area.
I'm saying is, this is right outside, within walking distance of our gate. And by the way, the gate is not 20 feet tall, covered in barbed wire. And so what I'm asking is, this has been going on. I'm not a stranger here. I've lived in Buckingham for 15 years. So this has always been the case. Why such a place can have so much crime that would make people this close to their home? And by the way, everybody here is close to this. It's within walking distance. It is unacceptable, and I don't like to be in the sheriff's department. It's amazing. And by the way, after Mike Scott, things are looking up. But not here.
Right.
Not here. I lived in Buckingham off of Stratton Road. You know Stratton Road?
Yeah.
Off a cemetery? Terrible.
Well, let
So-
me speak to that, and I appreciate your passion in what you're saying. So, one of the things that we recognize as being community response deputies is the fact that, yes, we do have issues that are going on within our communities, but then we all have to go outside of these gates, right? A lot of times when we do have being in gated communities is we build up a false sense of security, quite honestly. We pay a lot of money to live in these communities because we want to escape those things that we see out in the streets. And I understand that. But if we have a little perspective, we would see that if anyone knew that Fort Myers, the city of Fort Myers, is one of the top 5 safest cities voted to live in the country.
Don't feel it.
What we do have, though, is, unfortunately, it's just like when we were all in school, you have that 10% of the population that we deal with 90% of the time. And so unfortunately, in our Circle Ks or our 7-Elevens, we do have these activities. It's important for us as community response deputies to work closely with our local road patrol units. And what I try to do is facilitate having roll calls within the community so some of our residents can address those issues with our deputies that are actually out there patrolling the streets, and they're patrolling these businesses. And I'm more than sure that they also know the issues that are going on at the Circle K.
It's been going on for so long, I don't feel it.
So what we have to do.
This is a hotspot that is unresourced. And this is what I want you to tell Mr. Carmine, Sheriff. It's really bad back there. I understand that. There's a lot of poor people, but that is not an excuse.
Yeah.
These people, they don't respect gates.
Thank you, thank you.
I will certainly bring that up with our central district, their road patrol, when they have their next meeting. We do have crime prevention practitioners who sit in on our meetings for our crime statistics, and I'll make sure that I mention that and see if we can't get some more active patrols in that area. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
I thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
On the other hand, I go to the Circle K more often than I'd admit. I've never been offered drugs or sex, and I feel safe there. But that's me. I look at my surroundings and, you know, be semi-careful. We do have a safety and lighting committee.
I had a guy threaten me with a gun 2 hours ago.
Take care of things there. John, could you help field any more questions we might have from the audience?
If you have
or
a
the
carry
board?
conceal, carry it every day that you leave this compound. Do not have your gun sitting at home. Carry it with you. When I leave this compound, I carry every minute of the day.
Trust
I have
me,
a
this,
round
I
in
would
the
start doing that
chamber.
now, and that is unfortunate because I don't want to.
Well, you
But
knew where you were
We're
coming,
trying to live in.
you know.
And one of the things that we
Just
can
it is.
do, for those of us who may not feel comfortable carrying a concealed weapon, although the sheriff definitely supports the Second Amendment and your right to bear arms. However, what I found being in these communities and being even me as a sworn certified deputy, just being a good witness, keeping an eye on your surroundings. If you see something, say something. Before you go into the Circle K, look through the windows. If anything looks nefarious, just back away. And please don't ever hesitate. You did a great tactic in getting on your phone, saying I'm gonna call 911. You know, just being a good witness,
I
observing.
pretended I had a gun.
Right.
The thing is he pretended that he was coming after me with a gun.
And that's one of the things that we all can do is and not to go on a tangent, just a minute, we have a 40-foot trailer as one of our assets we bring into communities. It's a virtual deputy experience. And what it does is it teaches our residents how to conduct themselves in situations just like this. You would put on a gun belt and a vest, and it's a video where you can interact, and there are scenarios. What do you do if you go to the Circle K? That's actually one of our scenarios, and you see someone getting robbed, and you have the authority as a law enforcement officer. And so we run you through that scenario. It's with a laser pointed gun. There's no recoil, there's no live rounds, and you can actually make decisions. And based on your decisions, the scenario would play out. So we bring that into communities just so that for situations like this, you would know how to carry yourself. So at least you can get some repetition and think about these what-if scenarios, so that if you ever find yourself in that position, you might have a little bit more education on what you may do or what the best course of action would be. But being a good witness is always the best course of action. If you see something, say something. Don't ever hesitate to call 911. No problem is too small. And our deputies, we have a great response time to these type of incidents, and we will be there to handle situations.
One last thing,
one thing
though,
on that.
please, can I just say one thing? The Circle K, about 4 o'clock, 4:10, which, if you can't, go there and review the tape.
Yes, sir.
And that might, and by the way, you might get the guy with the license plate, because I didn't call 911.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
I pretended,
Thank you.
so.
One thing that I've said, and I've always said this to people, is we've done a real good job of isolating. There's a lot of lower income housing around this community. It is what it is. We've done a really good job of isolating ourselves from it, where when you're sitting here, it doesn't feel like it, but you have to be aware of where you're going outside the gates here and in the immediate area. It's improving, but it's still got a long way to go.
Thank you.
But that goes for everywhere. There's going to be pockets.
Yes.
That's fine.
Bill England.
Yeah. Bill England, 4761 Lakeside Club Boulevard, number 15. The biggest thing that really, I guess, bothers me more than anything, living here, is the panhandlers that we have down here on the corners. You
Yes.
have it down here on Palm Beach Boulevard where we turn off. You have it where you get off of 75 at the exit. They're out there every evening selling flowers or begging for money. And they're jumping in between cars and everything, and sometimes you're afraid to move because you're just waiting and you know they're gonna jump out. And I guess that bothers me more than anything. And you see all these people lined up and you're wondering if they're sitting there with their doors locked, or you never know if you reach for something, if somebody else is standing over in the weeds waiting to jump out and take it, That bothers me, I guess, more than anything. And I thought they had passed a law at one time that they wasn't supposed to do that.
Right, and that's actually, I'm glad that you brought that up, Mr. England, because what we have begun to enforce with fines, with citations, and with physical arrest is our deadly intersections law, to where they cannot in intersections panhandle and solicit and things like that. So we have been aggressively attacking that throughout our districts. We've made multiple arrests on it, and we've issued multiple warnings and citations. That's a progressive thing that we have to continue to police. We have to continue to work our intersections, because we have had issues with that. So I appreciate that. I know me personally, in doing gated area checks here, I've been able to shoo away, I hate to say it this way, but I've been able to shoo away many transients that have been trying to hang out in this community. And I think it's just, we need more police presence. We need more of a, more vigilance in doing that, And sometimes what it is just the squeaky wheel is going to get the most grease, When they look at the crime statistics, they say, oh, looks pretty good over here. But we have a huge red blotter over here of crimes taking place over in Tice or over in Palm Beach. So it's just a matter of diverting some more resources on this side of town to put out some of these small brush fires before they become an inferno. So I appreciate that. One of the theories that I believe in, especially when I do community cleanups, is there are things that we can control. For example, graffiti, litter, broken windows, those type of things that attracts a criminal element. So if we can continue to keep our community looking good as far as cleaning it up, as far as making sure we all do our responsibilities in our homes, then we won't attract that type of element here. And like you said, Mr. Ray, I think we've done a great job here of isolating the residents from the things that go on, which is why it's probably such a stark contrast when you go out and you see things like that. Because here it's more of a utopian situation, and then you go out and you see these things. So, and I hate to say it, that may be a little bit of the false sense of security. We're still in the real world. We still have people, and we still have human nature. But I think we do a great job. And so when I go to our next Central District meeting, I will bring up the desire for an increased patrol right outside the community and see if we can do that with our deputies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, Mao?
So we do have a problem child in our community that has had several calls for domestic battery on his wife. When your office shows up, it's a he said, she said. Could you please give some of our residents some ideas of how we can get them to take documentation and how we can file reports against this individual so we can have him arrested?
Thank you for that. So some of the issues that we have with domestic violence incidents, one is neighbors turning a deaf ear or a blind eye. I mean, you're living in that residence next to them as their neighbor. You hear the screams, you hear the commotion, you hear the furniture overturned, and just a reluctance to get involved because of a fear of retaliation or something to that effect. Rest assured that you can report any crime that you hear going on in your community as an anonymous source. You do not have to get involved. If you simply give the address that is taking place and remain anonymous, you don't want to give that information, the deputies can respond and still do a well-being check and still investigate it without you ever having to get involved. We all have a responsibility as neighbors to take care of one another and make that call. So when the deputy gets to the location, they have to do a preliminary investigation, and whether there's probable cause to make an arrest or not, that call would get documented. So the thing about domestic violence is the victim rarely wants to report it because chances are it's the person who's providing the income in the house. Well, if he gets arrested, he's not going to be able to go to work and have kids, or he's just going to get right out like he has 4 or 5 times before, and then it's going to be worse for me. So they don't want to press charges, which is why the state of Florida decided that the state will be the ones that press charges on that. So we do not need a victim to write a sworn affidavit or to even press charges in order to make an arrest for domestic violence. If the deputy sees a situation that would be a probable cause that there was a battery that took place, they can make an arrest. And there are many things that they can go off of. They can go off of just what some neighbors may have said, and you can leave them anonymous. They can go off of his team. They look like there were signs of struggle. They can go off of the suspect himself, what he says. And all of these things can take place in the preliminary investigation, but none of these things happen if no one picks up the phone and calls 911. So that's our first response, is we need to call 911, not 2 days after it happened, but the night that it's happening. And that takes a level of courage that many people may not want to get involved, but if we don't get these calls, then we can't get here and investigate it. So if you're worried about being singled out, we can keep it anonymous. We can and at least document. Even if we don't make an arrest, we can say, hey, in the last 2 weeks, we've been to this residence 3, 4, 5 times. And then we can also work with those families or whoever it may be to make sure that we can at least start some type of restraining order or at least start some type of documentation on the incident.
Can we also talk about using our phone to gather evidence against that person?
So if you are in your home and you're hearing this commotion, there's nothing wrong with you picking up your phone and turning on the recorder so that we can hear it. Matter of fact, we have what we call as plain sight. If you actually see an incident taking place, there's no reason why you could not record that. Now, the problem is, if the people involved in this see you recording, well then, yeah, they may turn their aggression out on you. But if you're in the privacy of your own home and you want to document that there's some type of struggle going on upstairs or downstairs, there's nothing to stop you from turning on your recorder and just recording the struggle. It's not like you're wiring yourself and you're going undercover to entrap them, right? You're just recording the sound that you hear that would help the deputies out, and that would help us to establish a probable cause that there was a battery.
One of the other things that we have going on here and the residents are very concerned about is what we call gate crashers. And that typically happens during the day. A lot of times it's a delivery person that can't get in for whatever reason. We continually tell people not to confront people that crash the gate behind them when they're driving in. Although just the other day I had one of the more senior residents chase somebody down in their car during the day. I happened to be there, went down out of concern. We don't want anybody to get hurt, not that I'm going to do much. But what is in that scenario, what could go wrong?
Well, the first thing.
And what should they really do?
Sure, so this goes back to me when I said be a good witness. I'm sure in some way you all have to absorb the cost of these type of things, right? When things break from them crashing the gates and things like that. But I would never suggest you taking it personally upon yourself to confront anyone, even out on the streets when you're driving in your own personal vehicle. I believe being a good witness is the best way to go. Get the tag, get the make and model of the vehicle. Hopefully we have good surveillance video cameras that capture the incident. And also pick up your phone and call 911. That's the best way to handle it. I've been to numerous situations where it was a reckless driver, careless driving, and it ended up being a disturbance because the complainant follows the driver home up to their property and then causes the disturbance, and then there's a use of force. And we always have to remember that we don't know what's going on with that person behind the wheel, right? But we do know our own action, and we do know our own mindset. And so what we have to do is police ourselves. And I know, that adrenaline gets going, and some of us who may be former law enforcement or former, this or that, military, we want to get involved and we want to protect our neighbors, and we want to, sometimes the deputies don't get there fast enough, and we want to take it into our own hands. But trust me, you open yourself up to severe civil liability as well in doing that. Not only for yourselves, but also for the association.
For everybody in here, this meeting's going to go quite a while, and we're going to continue the same format that we would have at the end of our meetings, where we take questions from the audience. You step up to the microphone, introduce yourself, give us your address, and you have 3 minutes to get your question out. The reason for being at the mic is you're being recorded, and there's people at home watching this, and we don't want them hearing shout-out questions from the back of the room. Thank you. Yes.
Please don't get sick of me. This is really, this is important. Short and sweet. You have a Facebook page.
I don't care.
Yes,
I have.
No, go ahead.
I have multiple times tried to use it. No response. Could you beef it up?
So what we normally try to do is we actually have a website. If you go to sheriffleefl.org, you can submit any type of questions or any concerns that you have on there. We also have a Facebook page. A lot of times we have our public information officer that does check the comment section, but I would not say that's the most efficient way to reach out with any concerns. Your best source for concerns or comments or questions would be me as your community response deputy, or reaching out to the sheriff's office through their website.
What's that website?
It's sheriffleefl.org, and we have a spot on there where you can leave a question or a comment.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Javon, I would think, I'm trying to prevent things before they happen. Can you talk about the 3 components of a crime and how we can eliminate targets and opportunities?
As far as
sometimes there's still gonna be bad guys out there, but if we lock our doors,
yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, so when we have our crime prevention practitioners come out, what they're gonna say is that there are a lot of, it's like water, it's gonna go the path of least resistance, right? So what we wanna do is we wanna take away the opportunity, the ability for a crime to take place. A lot of crimes are crimes of opportunity. It's just as simple as a resident leaving the windows down, or leaving your doors unlocked, or leaving your garage open, or leaving property outside of your home. One of the big things I tell residents, when everyone comes down for Christmas and you wrap up all your gifts, and then you open up all your gifts, and then you leave all of your boxes of all your items that you got right out there for the trash, and the bad guy knows everything that you had, and he goes in and he takes whatever he wants, So if we can just eliminate the basic things, just being aware of your surroundings, making sure that you secure your valuables when you leave your home, when you go to the park, when you go to the supermarket, when you go to a restaurant, don't leave your items visible. If you have any weapons in the home, please secure them before you leave the house. Things like that would go a long way to not becoming such a soft target. And if we could do those things, I'm telling you, our crime stats would go down tremendously. It's the basics, And when we don't do the little things, that's when the big things happen. And that's what I try to educate the community on. And the deputies, when they come out and they take a call, the first thing they're gonna ask, do you have video cameras in your home? And I don't know what the HOA allows or the COA allows in that.
We try to promote people to get the Ring doorbells. We think
Right.
that's a great thing.
Yeah, so things like this would help us as well. We also have cameras that we use in our gated communities that link to the Lee County Sheriff's Office's Real-Time Intelligence Center. It's a state-of-the-art surveillance that we use in conjunction with our communities. So that rather than us having to go through some third-party site to upload information from your camera systems, we can monitor it directly. And if there is a stolen car that comes into the community, if there is a person with a warrant, if there is a person who's a suspect in a serious crime, we can have access to the cameras so that we can track that person and get him out of the community. So this is something that we've been trying to promote in our communities. Having our license plate reader cameras at the front gates, having some of our cameras at our amenity centers has brought down the caseload and closing out our cases tremendously since we've installed these cameras. So there's a multitude of things that we can do, but it starts with the basics, just eliminating that opportunity for the bad guy to commit an easy crime. You want to make them work for it, you know? You don't want to just give your stuff away. Let's make them work for it, you know?
One more thing. We have 15 dog walkers in here that walk their dogs. And we have that same individual in my last scenario drives recklessly. Can they videotape him
Big time.
driving every time he drives in and out, goes through the stop signs and everything? I know you don't have anything with DNT, but
So a lot of these things that we see, for example, trespassing, reckless driving, a lot of these things have to occur in an officer's presence in order for them to enforce it, right? So if you come up to me and you say, hey, this guy was speeding, if I was not there to witness it and use my speed detection training and experience to be able to say, yes, this person was going this fast, then I cannot effectively enforce that, right? At least for that. However, to establish a pattern of behavior that can be used for other proceedings, that's an excellent idea to do, especially if it's so predictable that you can be there when it's taking place. For instance, you're walking your dog every morning and you see it. Yes, you want to start documenting that because that is helpful, and I'm sure that would help with your bylaws as far as trying to come about with some type of consequence for doing that. So I would suggest that you never want to leave the house without your phone, and also be careful with your dogs. Make sure you have them on a leash. Make sure that we're abiding by the rules and the regulations on our end. And yes, please document those type of situations. Then when the deputy gets there after it takes place, he or she can at least have some context on what's happening. And we could still document that this is taking place so that when a crime does take place, we have a chronological history of it being an issue.
I have a question. I know these are private roads and you guys can't do traffic, like stop signs and stuff like that. But there is a threshold where it moves from traffic to crime, right? And then you would get involved, like someone drunk driving or someone drove into a house or ran someone over, whatever.
Right, yeah, so we would call that...
What is that?
We would call that like an exigent circumstance, right? Whether there or not there's a traffic control agreement. By law, we still have to stop a reckless driver or someone driving under the influence or someone who's just committed a crime and they've come into the community. So we can still use traffic laws to affect that traffic stop. If we were doing some type of an operation on someone and they happen to be driving and they came into your community, well, based on the investigation that we're conducting, we could affect a traffic stop. But normally without a traffic control agreement, we could not do like a proactive patrol as far as speed enforcement in the community. However, there are other things that we can do. One is visibility, and this is where we would have to work with our road units and say, hey, look, when you guys are not on the road and you're doing your paperwork, you're completing your reports, would you mind coming into our community and just sitting at an intersection? That would help us tremendously. Just to see a marked unit, people are normally going to slow down, right? You see that marked unit, you don't know what he's here for, but you see it says sheriff's office, so all right, I don't want to take it, I'm going to slow down. A lot of our residents, I mean, you guys can let the cat out of the bag if you want, but they don't know we don't have a traffic control agreement. You know what I mean? Sorry if I gave that away. But your residents, they need visibility, then education, us coming in and meeting with the residents and having events like this, and being able to let them know as far as these are the issues that are happening. And then also just establishing those relationships, putting out our literature from the sheriff's office that talks about speeding, putting out some of the statistics, sharing some of the information that we have online. I think that would help. I think it's visibility, it's education, and then it's just having a relationship in the community. If they see a marked unit here and they know that you're actively driving around, it'll cause people to slow down. Now, there's all kind of things we can do. If we have a traffic control agreement, that's when it can get fun. But in the meantime, it's just a matter of education and visibility.
Sergeant Matthews, I do have one question with regard to education. Can you tell us about the Citizens Academy?
So we do still have our Citizens Academy, and basically what that is for the citizens, you can go through it. I forget how many weeks it is, but you basically shadow the deputies and learn different aspects of the sheriff's office. There's a lot more involved in the sheriff's office than just patrol. We introduce you to many of the other units that we have, K-9 and aviation. You'd be able to come into communications and sit in on the dispatch and call takers. You would get a tour of our forensics center where you would see where we process our evidence. We also do ride-alongs where you can go with the road patrol deputy and drive around and see what their day is like. And this is all offered to our citizens. I don't know how many weeks it is now.
I don't remember either. Do you know like how, because I think it would be great to get a group of people from here to go through something like that, but how we initiate it?
Well, here's how we could initiate it. If we could get together as a community and pick a date, and one of our crime prevention ladies, her name is Heather Turco, she does tours of our headquarters building. So I think that would be a great start. We can have a tour of headquarters, and then she can give out some literature on that and explain more of the Citizens Academy. And then we can show you some of the assets that we have at the Sheriff's Office, and whoever's interested, we can get their name and contact information, and we can send them out some direct information about that Citizens Academy.
A few years ago, you guys actually brought the K-9 out, and they did a biting.
Yeah.
Arm, and
Yeah,
they had the helicopter guys out.
If you look on our sheriff's Facebook page today, we just did that for a young man. He's 14 years old, and he had terminal cancer. So the sheriff deputized him, gave him a badge, gave him a police vest, put him on the SWAT unit, so he went out in the Bearcat and he went out, tried out the SWAT equipment. They simulated a K-9 bite, and then they took him and they gave him a helicopter ride and showed him around the county, and he's now part of the Lee County Sheriff's Office. So yeah, we do things like that. It's on the Facebook page for the Sheriff's Office if you have time to look at that tonight.
Well, Sergeant Matthews, this has been very informative. We greatly appreciate your service and your dedication, spending the time out here, and it's been very informative to the residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A souvenir.
Bring it back. I'll bring it back.
I keep telling you, our goal is to be his favorite community.
Have their
I'll bring them and I'll put them.
What are the me?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. It won't be me calling you, they'll all call you now.
I am going to put my business cards, I'm gonna go to the car and I'll put them right here. If anyone has any.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Next up, we have Laura Ambrose, and she's gonna give us a little bit of education, a little background on insurance, hopefully enlighten us a little bit about the insurance climate, what's going on right now, as we've all heard many bad things.
Thank you, Bob. Does everybody have a copy of this? Yes. I know some people came in. Okay. And I talk about it. Okay, so does everybody have a copy? Okay. Thank you.
I'm coming.
We have lots of copies, so we need more than one. Okay, good. Just to introduce myself, I'm Laura Ambrose. I'm Senior Vice President at Brown & Brown Insurance. I have been specializing in insuring condominiums for about 21 years now, and I've been insuring Pine Ridge at Fort Myers for 15 years. So Brown & Brown is the largest agency in Florida and the 5th largest in the country. We are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and really what that means to you is that we are what they call the big bear in the woods. We're the largest, so we have the leverage when it comes to dealing with the different carriers and having claims, so it allows us to have leverage with the different insurance companies. Now, what I'm going to talk about is the current property market. Now, how many of you have been non-renewed on your insurance for your home? Anybody non-renewed? Okay, so, well, what's happening right now, it's what you call a hard market. Hard market means compared to a soft market. So hard market means it's hard to get good pricing, hard to get carriers, hard to get good terms and conditions, which would be deductibles. You know, you may have had a 2% deductible, now you can only get a 5%. So that's what a hard market is. And how did we get here? Everybody wants to know what happened. Now on this is an excellent handout that shows you exactly what happened. And it started in 2017. In 2017, we had Hurricane Irma. We had Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Maria. So, and before that, we were in 12 years of a very quiet, there was nothing going on, and we were in a soft market, which means carriers were coming out, they were coming to Florida, we had more carriers, you were seeing reductions every year. But the ball started with Hurricane Irma in 2017. And as you can see from this handout, every year you see all the catastrophic events. Now this is all hailstorms, hurricanes, wildfires, and then we had Hurricane Ian. Now why do I tell you this? Because every insurance company has reinsurance, and these are the carriers that stand behind the insurance company. They're the ones who pay the big claims. So some people will ask, why do I care what happens in Texas if I live in Florida? Because they all share in the same reinsurance carriers. Okay, so right now we are in the hardest market in a generation. So it's extremely difficult. You've got carriers, especially homeowners, unit insurance carriers going belly up. So it is extremely difficult right now. So what we are seeing is that we are seeing anywhere from 50 to 800% increases, okay? And there's a lot of carriers that are barely hanging on there, you know, I mean, and so fortunately, you are with a carrier called Heritage. Heritage is in St. Petersburg, Florida, and what's nice about Heritage is that they are an admitted carrier, which means that for any reason they were to go under, the guaranteed fund would then step in and pay your claims, up to $200,000 per unit, okay? So even specifically when it comes to Pine Ridge at Fort Myers, you had a new appraisal done. Now an appraisal is required by the Florida statute, one every 3 years by an outside appraiser. And this is what the price of the building cost to replace it. Not to be mistaken with market value. Market value is what you sell your unit for. Appraised value is bricks and mortar, it's labor, it's materials, so what it costs to rebuild that building. So you had a new appraisal done, and your appraisal went up 29%, and that's a pretty big jump. So when the appraisal goes up, the premium goes up. So this year, the renewal came in at an 87% increase. So just to give you an idea. 87%, yes, and the appraisal was a factor, but it's just the other thing is the market. The market is extremely tough. I have some associations that can't even get insurance, and so it is extremely tough. And so what we've done, you know, and I applaud the board, you know, Tom, Eric, you know, we always look for every area possible to reduce the premium. And, you know, and I think having the spreadsheets, and I know you're working on your roofs, you know, these are things about being proactive. And in your community, you are very proactive. And just making sure that, you know, because carriers want to insure a community that it's not going to be like the Champlain Towers. You know, those are where the red flag, where they don't do anything and they just kick the can down the road and then all of a sudden the building collapses. And so they want to see communities where the board, the association is being proactive and they're making their, bringing their buildings up to date. And, and I can see you are proactive, having the sheriff here and you're doing things to better your community. So that just gives you an idea. And, I know you hear a lot of things and I'm not the bearer of good news these days, that's for sure, but even the Gulf of Mexico right now is 5 to 8 degrees warmer than it's ever been. When the Gulf of Mexico is warm, that's where the hurricanes pick up speed. So again, we can never be too complacent. I was doing seminars last June and I kept telling boards, get a line of credit, prepare. And everybody thought, because what happens is that the end of September to end of August to the end of October, that's the height of hurricane season. Not so much June and July. So it is tough out there, and but I just we do everything we can, and as your agent to try to negotiate with these carriers. We have an open Hurricane Ian claim that Eric and I are going to be working very hard on and getting that paid. So that's kind of what's going on out there. So any questions from anybody? I know everybody's in shock. Yes.
Do they not take individual places into consideration? For instance, basically, our units suffered almost nothing from Ian. Everyone could still stay in their unit. No roof blew off. Do they not take individual situations into consideration?
The property market, and I have a lot of associations say, we didn't have a claim. Why do we get hit with the same increase for somebody who had a $5 million claim? It's just, that's how it looks, they look at probable maximum loss and look at the whole picture, and everybody, whether you have a claim or not, you still get hit with the increase. It's just it's the capital that these carriers want, and that's why I have high rises that are $50 million in value and they can only get $5 million in coverage for double the premium. And it's just the capacity is because of the reinsurance carriers, it's very light here in Florida. And if we can go, just knock on wood, a year with no hurricanes, that would help. Because right now I'm dealing with 65 claims and none of them can afford to have any more damage. And some, in Fort Myers Beach, you can't even live in the buildings. So I don't know, have any of you been down to Fort Myers Beach? Yeah, and it's devastating. So
looking at it from a business perspective, it's a lack of competition also. We have Heritage as an option, and that's it. So there's nobody to keep them honest. Like you go to the Circle K, Coke and Pepsi are relatively close in price because they keep each other honest. If you take one off the market, the other one could charge you right there.
Yeah, and a hard market also means that these carriers are willing to walk away. When it's a soft market, they want to get in the ring, they want to do whatever they can to get your business. When it's a hard market, they don't care. So it's like we have to sell it to them. And right now, American Coastal, well, you do have an open claim. So when you have an open claim, it means that other carriers will not engage with you because they don't want to be brought into a lawsuit, and that's what would happen. So until all the repairs have been made and until the claim is closed, you're with the same carrier. So it is tough right now. Citizens, which is the state pool, and they used to say Citizens is the insurer of last resort. And that's when you cannot get insurance anywhere else. Well, it's almost becoming the insurer of first resort. They are being extremely competitive, especially with high rises. And that's where right now we could see up to 2 million policies with Citizens by the end of the year. And that's not a good thing because if they go under and they have everybody's insured with Citizens, then first it's the policy holders, but then it's the citizens of the state of Florida who get hit with the assessments. So it's tough out there because you've got more carriers leaving than you have coming, and the ones that are here, some of their financials are not good right now. And things are right now, Hurricane Ian was $117 billion in property damage, but it's still growing. And then this is just where we are right now. So it's, and some of these carriers, especially the homeowners, unit insurance, they're going belly up. They can't pay the claims. And then they go to the Citizens, or they go to the guaranteed fund, who helps pay those claims. And that's why you get non-renewed
Is
Yeah,
there
so-
a difference, because we have, our highest building is only 3 stories versus something like over on the other coast where they have 20, 30, 40 stories?
Sure.
Is there a difference in the rate? Or,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once you get over, you become a mid-rise or high-rise, you're looking at a whole different rate. It's extremely expensive. And
are we
especially,
considered low-rise?
yeah, I mean, you're considered, well, you've got 3 stories, okay, but you're not put in the category of a high-rise. And a high-rise is where you start layering up. So you have Heritage. Heritage will not, they insure you, now you have a building that's what, 3 stories? They won't go anything over 3 stories, okay? So once you lose Heritage, then you go into the excess surplus market, and that's where your pricing goes up 200 or 300%. So that's where you're, and especially with high rises, people don't understand that with living on a high rise right now on the water is, you know, and I've seen, I have one association, each individual unit owners was assessed 150,000. So it's getting very, very expensive to live on the water. So you're great where you are. Yeah. So just, I know, and it's, we just need to just say our prayers that we can go a year without hurricanes, because that's what we need. We really do. It's tough out there.
You mentioned the larger insurance companies that back the smaller.
Yes, the reinsurance
companies.
carriers.
So is this increase nationwide, or is it just isolated to certain areas of the country?
But that's a great question. They are seeing increases across the country, but not like we are. And Florida is considered the most volatile state in the country when it comes to an insurance risk. So we are seeing increases like nobody else has seen. But they are seeing them across the board, if you, any other states, but not like we are. Okay, yes, sir.
What can we do?
Just, there's nothing you can really do right now. You know, it's just, you know, right now, it's just living in Florida, you know, and that's really where, because of the flood claims, the wind claims, there's nothing, I mean, what you can do is just make sure your roofs are not older than 15 years old. Because I have one association, their roofs were 25 years old, they still are going without wind coverage. And so right now, they had to pay extra to have a roofer fix these roofs. And here they've kind of pushed the can, they didn't think it was that big of a deal. And so they're just tightening up and making sure those roofs are not older than 15 years old. But as far as what can an association do, you're doing everything you can. You know, so that's really, that's where we are. Okay, any other questions?
What are the benefits of self-insuring?
Self-insuring for an association is not an option. Okay, so your building, right, your community is 77 million, okay? You would have to have 77 million put aside to be able to pay. Then you're dealing with banks and mortgage companies, and that still may not be enough. And really what you're doing, a lot of times, because I have high rises, they got a $3.2 million deductible. They're like, we're never gonna use it, but we're really just carrying this insurance for the banks and mortgage companies, because they're the ones who call the shots. So self-insuring is really not an option. Anybody else?
Insurance company is a
Can you get us a lower price?
I'm sorry. I'm always trying to.
What
Do
can we
everything I
do for a
can.
lower price?
What's that?
What can we do for a lower price?
You can't. You have the highest deductible that the carrier offers, which is 5%, and you have everything. There's nothing more you can do.
This lake is actually a very good place for the runoff water. And I don't think we're in a really, really bad, I've been in Florida for many, many years, for 40-something years. This area has never really suffered much.
Well, fortunately, you're not in a flood zone. A flood zone is the high-risk probability that you're gonna have a flood. And I've got all those ones you see on Fort Myers Beach, on Gulf Shore Drive, those are in a high-risk flood zone. So when that storm surge came in at 15 feet, there was significant damage done. And so right now, you're not in a high-risk flood zone. So that's where you would be paying about $100,000 at least if you were carrying flood. So you're not carrying flood. Your biggest peril is going to be wind. You know, and it rips the roofs off, blows out windows, but not so much water. And that's why when you talk about the pond, that's going to be flood. Flood is, always coming in from the outside, it's rising water. So if, let's say, a sprinkler head bursts and it floods out 3 units, that's gonna be a property claim. So flood, which is through the federal government, is always gonna be coming in from the outside.
Can we differentiate the price for sprinkler versus hurricane? I mean,
I'm not understanding.
okay, the sprinkler and hurricane, are they different policies or are they all connected?
No, you've got your hurricane claim. Hurricane is your property policy, and that's gonna be if you have hurricane, the peril of wind. You have a fire, you have theft, vandalism. That's where that property policy that you have with Heritage is going to respond. And that's, you either have your hazard policy, which is your property, or you have a flood policy when it comes to catastrophic damage. So I have ones that are on Fort Myers Beach right now that they have both of them going. They have a flood claim, and flood is, that's where you have the line. So that's when they know it was a flood, they look for that line. And then the roof gets ripped off, so that's gonna be the wind policy. So you have both policies going at the same time. So at the same time, you have 25% of all properties that are not in high risk end up getting flooded. So that's, you know, I mean, I have some associations that carry flood even though they're not in a flood zone. Yes, ma'am.
Should we carry flood even though we're not in a flood zone? Personally?
You know, some associations sometimes like to even get a quote, you know, just so they can put it out to the membership. Because that's gonna be the number.
I think what she's asking, should they get flood insurance? If they
Well, the thing is, you live in a condominium association, the policy is called an RCBAP, Residential Condominium Building Property Policy. So you're gonna get your own personal contents, and that's gonna be your clothing, furniture, that will be covered under a policy that you get for yourself. That's it. But as far as the structure itself, because if you have 4 units in a building and you're the only one that's carrying flood, it's got to make sure that everybody has it. So the association would have to purchase the policy. But you can purchase it for yourself, especially if you're on the first floor and it comes in and just damages and floods, you lose all your stuff. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we're good? Okay.
Any other questions, anybody?
Any more questions?
You got off
Wow.
easy.
Did I get off easy?
Compared to the
Yeah,
sheriff.
very good. It was playing well.
Oh. I brought the cookies.
Sponsored by Brown and Brown.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Laura, thank you very much for clearing that up for us. Don't know if it made anybody feel any better, but
I know.
thank
Thank
you.
people for you.
You're very brave coming here.
Okay, you're so welcome. Thank you.
Oh, this has been quite a night.
Having fun?
Yeah.
It's just frustrating all the years.
Is breakfast gonna be served at midnight?
Next up, we have the open forum, and I don't believe we had any residents sign up to speak tonight.
Correct.
We still have a long meeting to go, so.
I didn't bring my, oh. I didn't put it on my.
Do we have a motion to either read or waive the reading of last month's minutes?
I'd like to waive the reading of the minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Motion passes.
Take your time, I don't want to get my hair wet.
Well, we have a lot of things going on in the community. We're trying to
Midnight.
get the insurance claim settled, as everybody knows. We still have the dumpster corrals, and we're moving forward with pretty much everything. It might not be as quick as we all would like to see it happen, but rest assured, we do have that going on. One thing I'd like to bring up, I've had a little bit of discussion with Bob Geiser and revolving around volunteers. in the community. We've had a lot of volunteers in the past, landscaping, flooring projects. I'd like to have a meeting, anybody interested in getting together and little volunteer projects, clean up in the community, that type of thing. We'll get together and discuss that. I'm going to post that meeting on the bulletin board, and perhaps we could get together Saturday morning, maybe about 9 o'clock.
This Saturday?
Does that work for you, Bob? Okay, I'm going to post that on the bulletin board. Yes, this Saturday, 9 o'clock. Anybody interested in volunteering their services for the community is welcome to come down.
All right.
So, next up, we have a manager's report.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
So I'll go through as quickly as I can. The pool and spa licenses were renewed over the last month. We repaired another section of the deep end. Looks like the pool needs some more refurbishing sooner than later, so we've got to start looking at that. Pool number 5 is going to finally be replaced next month. There were supply chain shortages. Remember, we were down 3 out of 5 pool heaters. We got the parts for 2 of them to be fixed, and the third one's going to be replaced. We have been working on repairing a very serious leak under a garage in Windsor Club Circle. They did a good job. They were able to find it, get it back going, and everything is back to normal over there almost, except for one person's house. Apologize for the inconvenience, everybody, and thank you for your cooperation. You were in that section and didn't have water for a couple hours this morning. And that leak, it brings me to the topic. I don't want to talk for too long about saving water and different things that we can do as a community. And I think we want to get organized and come up with some firm ideas. But just as an example, to throw it out there for everybody to consider while they're brushing their teeth or taking their shower or doing whatever they do, is the association spends about $250,000 a year on water. The biggest expense that we have is insurance. There's going to be insurance. Then we have cable TV and water. I mean, those 3 things are really the 3 primary expenses here. So $250,000. If we were able to just use 90% of the water that we currently use, that would save us $25,000 over the course of the whole year. So, I mean, think about that. 90% instead of 100%, and the community is going to realize those savings. And we can actually look year to year and quantify it, which is going to be the gutter cleaning and repairs are continuing on. I'm testing some of them out right now, actually. We'll be walking through the job with the owners of the company later on in the week. Complaints to Comcast about the service have apparently gotten through. We have a field survey scheduled where they want to go out and review all the existing infrastructure and see what can be improved. I can tell them pretty easily that all the bent, beat up boxes with the lids off, it rains like this, and that's probably why the service goes back. But you have to be a brain surgeon to figure that out. But we're going to do that, and hopefully that will spur some action on their part, and you guys will have better service. Just for a point of reference, the contract with Comcast expires February of 2025. Lighting replacement update. We've been in contact with the suppliers and the installers. At this point, we're still waiting on the big concrete light poles. They're telling me end of August, beginning of September, which is still way longer than we would ever like, but it will at least be before it starts getting dark earlier. And that's, I guess, the primary goal we have to have right now is to get it in before it starts getting dark early, so at least we have our daylight. as we head into the autumn and it gets darker. Hurricane preparation and safety. Deputy Matthews touched on hurricane, and Laura talked about hurricane. I want to talk about hurricane preparation in case we have one. I sent out an email this week with some pretty general information. I think everybody pretty much knows what to do if a hurricane is coming. But if we do have one, that is going to be the primary way that we communicate is through the internet or email. And we are able to do a little bit of it even when the power and the cable are down because of cellular now. So if a hurricane does hit, I encourage everybody to keep an eye on your email, and we're going to do our best to keep everyone in the loop through that way, just like we did through Ian and Irma in the past, and I think it's worked out okay.
Sir?
You're not allowed to speak for the audience. The thing I want to talk about are the properties that surround Pine Ridge. If you noticed when you walked in, there were some real estate listings printed out. I went ahead and printed those for everybody. First one is it's this Tice Street multifamily here. This is the listing, we talked about it last month. It's the property to our south, and it's under contract. We do not know the buyer, and that be disclosed to us at this time. So that one went quicker than I certainly anticipated. It's under contract. Then we have the property, I think we call it our cow field, even though sometimes we don't have cows. This one here, 9730 Orange River Drive. And this one is listed as pending. This one's listed as pending, and I was verbally informed that it was purchased by a religious organization. That is all the information that I have. So that could be just an investment. It could be, a land holding there. It could be some sort of religious establishment. We never know. So we'll see what happens there. The third one is one that you didn't realize there was that much land there. I certainly didn't. Is 9860 Orange River Boulevard, which is that commercial business that used to be a maintenance facility there. Yeah, that building, and then almost all the way back to us, down that strip, has been purchased, and that one has been pending. That's been pending for some time, a little over a month actually. I've been watching that one, so seems like the best value. So be aware, we may have some development coming around us. We're going to have to talk to these people and make sure that they understand the way we work, and hopefully we can all work well together. Next thing I want to talk about is the insurance claim. Perhaps we'll talk about that on the agenda. So let me piggyback off what the sheriff said, a couple last things. One is safety. What I was saying is, and what I've learned in classes, there's three parts to a crime. There's a target, there's an opportunity, and there's a bad guy willing to do the crime. So there are targets everywhere. We're all targets. There are opportunities everywhere. The key is to prevent that from locking the doors, hiding your valuables. Doing that prevents the bad guy from even looking at it. That's the reason why it's a gated community. It's not gated to have 20-foot barbed wire fences around it. That's where the bad people are supposed to go. Those communities. We want nice fences like what we have, But the gate is not security. We don't offer security, and there's no way does the community provide any security. What we do provide is access control. That gate is designed to be a deterrent. If there is a bad guy coming, it's to remove us as a target and make him want to move down to the next community down. And there really is no perfect way of securing a community. That's why none of them offer security. It's always called access control. I used to run a big place in Naples with very expensive houses. We had 24-hour guards, and the guards' instructions, if somebody came up, looked like they had a gun and wanted to get in, the post orders were, let them in. I mean, there is no security, so please don't chase people down. These are licensed security guards, and they're told to let them in. Please don't chase people down, because you never know who it's going to be. A couple other reminders, non-approved tenants. Everybody who resides in Pine Ridge must go through either the new resident application or the long-term guest approval process and be approved. If you house someone who has failed to gain approval, you'll be in violation of the condo norms. Items on common ground. We had this problem pretty much resolved, and there's a few people that have started to sneak some things back out there, the potted plants and little statues and things like that. This stuff's not allowed. Reason being is, I understand some people like it, some people don't. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and part of living in a condo is maintaining that consistent look, and you're just not allowed to have it. The other thing is, they are potential projectiles when we get into a hurricane season, and it's raining pretty bad right now. I'm sure the wind is blowing also. And it's going to put your unit in violation. That's the main reason not to do it. You don't want to violate the condo declaration, and the board is going to issue violation notices to those who don't comply. So we're asking everybody right now to bring those items in and follow that rule. That'll be it for my tonight.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, we have the hurricane season approaching us. As many of you know, I spent about 6 months doing, we'll just call it field work. So I was in Fort Myers Beach, a lot of other places, North Captiva, and we talk about items that are set up because they can become basically missiles. And the most impressive thing that I saw that took off during the hurricane that you probably wouldn't think about was coconuts. These coconuts pelted these multi-million-dollar houses that were all hurricane glass all over the place. It looked like they got shot with cannonballs. They had 6-inch dents into the windows. So, believe me, these items that get picked up by the wind and they're traveling at 70 miles an hour or more can really hurt when they hit you. So we don't want anybody getting hurt, and that's the reason we keep saying that take these little statues, they don't belong, get rid of them. The little daisy that might be hanging on a fence somewhere, those are items that need to be gone.
And then one other thing if I can add, sorry I forgot. We had someone in here whose dog came into contact with a cane toad last week or the week before, and very bad situation. And these toads are very toxic to dogs. I sent out some emails about it. We posted it on the mailboxes. You want to be very, very careful, particularly at night, in the evening when you can't see. And do not let your dog go near these toads. It's that time of year where they're out there. It's an invasive. And if you read what we have posted, it gives you some instructions on what you can do. But there's not a whole lot. We try to repel it at one time and it didn't really work.
That is not the first dog that's been victim. About 3 years ago at night, there was a lady out here. She had a miner's cap on, a 5-gallon bucket, and a pitchfork. When I asked her what she was doing, she was killing the frogs that killed her dog. So, they're out there. Bill, do you have a treasurer's report for us?
Yes, I do.
I know.
You may not like it. I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, then, I can report again this month that the treasury remains stable. I printed a copy of the balance sheet and the income statement for you to pick up when you signed in tonight. We have all been quite concerned with the insurance premium and how that will affect the '24 budget, as this is one of our largest line items. It has more impact on the amount of dues than any other expense the association has. Like it or not, Laura has provided us with the amounts of premium it is ballooning to, and it really is unbelievable. Eric and I will be working with the numbers and reviewing how this increase in premium will truly impact the budget and how much we all will be paying in dues as we get into July and August. We will have most of that sorted out, and we'll be able to give everyone some idea where we stand going into 2024 and roughly what we all need to prepare for with the amount of dues we have to pay. And I'll tell you right now, they are going to go up, whether we like it or not, because of the increase in our insurance. I mean, we went, quite a bit. I didn't say that. Once I have, let's see, I announced last month that the association resolved the largest delinquent account. This was a result of our manager taking action that resulted in the association acquiring ownership of the unit. The unit was in very distressed condition and requires significant rehab, which has started and will be completed over the next 60 days. Once I have a complete breakdown of the acquisition cost, cleanup, and rehabilitation written out in a form that everyone will understand, I will share all that information with you. I may have it next month, but it'll probably be the month after that before we really get the total cost down. Because our manager was able to acquire the distressed unit under market value after we complete the improvements, the profit on the sale of the unit should be, and hopefully we'll make at least $100,000 on it. So this type of unanticipated extra income will go into the community treasury and will be used to offset for future increases in the cost, in the dues, and as costs rise and we continue to fight inflation. It may, hopefully we'll make more. I'd like to see we make enough we cover our insurance costs, but I guess that's wishful thinking. But just want to let you know, just be prepared. There is going to be an increase, and please don't kill me. I can't help it. We'll fight the budget every way we can and make it as least amount of hardship on everyone as we can. But there's only so much we can do.
We'll have Sergeant Matthews at the budget meeting just to
Yeah. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. We have some old business. First off, we're going to discuss some changes to the social club bylaws. Last month, the social club presented some changes to the bylaws to John and Eric. And Bill and I met with members of the social club to review these changes and understand their goals and what we can do working together to best achieve those goals for the community. Do I have a motion to approve or deny the proposed changes that everybody has in front of board members for the social bylaws?
I read them, I see them, I had a chance to look at them.
Well,
Could, for my benefit, and maybe somebody else, but I'm gonna have a chance to look at this, could they someone speak briefly about the changes and why they're requesting?
Yes.
Like one of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
come on up. First off, after our discussion that we had, I think there was some confusion of where the responsibility lied for the social club and what they were actually responsible for, so.
Let Jolene.
Go ahead, Jolene.
Okay, so we met with Bob and Bill and and Eric. So it was some of the social club, 3 of the social club, 3 of the board, we met. And as a social club group, the officers wanted to just change some of the things. Because there were things that haven't happened in years, like, I'll say the Valentine's dance. Hasn't happened in years. We said, why does it stay in the budget, or in the bylaws? Same thing with the do-up. We used to do do-up, we drew up some things. We did not include every single little thing we do, because if another board takes over the social club and they don't want to do everything, if it's in the bylaws, technically you have to do it, right? So we said the things that we are, as a social club, required to do is the Easter potluck, Thanksgiving potluck, and Christmas potluck. That's really what we're required to do, and to do Pine Ridge Day. So it was just a matter of cleaning things up and finding out from the board what we as a social club are responsible for and what the board is responsible for. Because in the past, if Bocce needed new balls, they would come to the social club and say, we need new balls. And because I took over from a treasurer that had deceased, I didn't get a whole lot of training, just like Bill over here. We didn't get a whole lot of training because the person died before I took over. Not his fault, not my fault, but as a social club, we decided that yes, we would buy the balls for Bocce. Buy something for shuffleboard, buy something here, buy something there. When we sat down with the board, we have discussed it in the interim and found out that that is technically an amenity, so it's not a social club requirement. So now, when someone comes to us, if we say, please present it to the board, do not be offended, it's not one of our responsibilities as the social club. Does that make sense?
Yes. that
Everybody
makes a
understands,
lot-
okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
Does that help, Ann?
Yes, thank you
Okay.
very much.
And we just kind of cleaned up the language, cleaned up some other things. And yes, we had the pandemic, so we had a requirement that at the end of the year, we had to give the board, went into escrow, and the escrow sat there. Well, it wasn't our fault that for 2 years we escrowed money, and then in the interim, we didn't use it because we didn't have Pine Ridge Day. So we've come up with a few things that we're going to do for the community that will make it better, and we're going to utilize some of that escrow money and start using it now that we have met with the board and they understand where we're coming from, we understand where they're coming from.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Based on that, I would like to propose a motion that we accept the change in the Pine Ridge Social Club bylaws.
I second that.
Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So last month, the our association acquired that property at 9540 Windsor Club Circle. I want to thank Bill for giving us that brief explanation of the property. And yes, all the profit is going to go to the community. We have a lot of things that we could use that money for. So that's going to be a bit of a blessing. I think everything's going to work out very well there. Bill mentioned that it was a mess. That doesn't even come close to describing it. I touched on it last month a little bit. the cleaning's probably the biggest expense that we have there, with truckloads of useless debris that was hauled out of there. I thank the Thuringers for coming over there and helping. They were unsolicited. My wife, after she was asked not to go over there to clean, you know what happened. She did the stuff that the cleaning crew in her mind wouldn't do. She cleaned window tracks out and those type of things. She's done a little bit of touch up on some aluminum trim on a couple windows. These little piddly things. She put an enormous amount of work into working on a spreadsheet, working with vendors, getting different prices so that we could determine how much of an investment it would take to bring this unit up to the level that all of us would be proud to live in. None of the volunteers are getting paid, rewarded, or anything of that nature. Just like all the volunteers here, whether they're out there picking up debris in the parking lot or working on the social committee, volunteers cover a very wide spectrum of this community. So, pretty soon we'll have some contractors coming in and working on this place. Bill put me on a schedule of 60 days, which was a little surprise to me a minute ago, but yeah, that would be nice.
Sorry about that.
No problem at all. We have a little bit of an update on the hurricane claim. I believe we already touched on it a little bit. But Eric, do you have anything to add to the earlier comments?
Yeah. So, since the hurricane, and over the last 2 or 3 months, I've learned quite a bit, and I've done some pretty careful analysis of our current policy, and there's a couple technicalities and things that I think that we may be able to get some of the money back that they're going to be charging us now on this. So we're working on this, and the main thing that I need in order to verify our theory here is the report that the independent adjuster sent by Heritage completed. And we didn't hire a public adjuster at the beginning because we wanted to go in good faith with this adjuster. So I've been trying to get a copy of that report. Not even necessarily for the insurance proceeds, but I'm pretty sure that we've got everything fixed up, but the person that we had on every roof really looking at it was this adjuster, and we need to get that report. However, this month is a little bit touchy where we don't want to upset them too badly because we haven't renewed yet, and we just got pricing for that. So I wasn't pressing them as hard as I normally would. And I think Laura kind of mentioned that once it's renewed, we can go after. So the last correspondence I had with the desk adjuster at Heritage regarding the report that we want is, Eric, I'm in the process of reviewing the final field adjuster's report. It is over 2,000 pages in total, so it is taking me a little bit to complete. Once my review is complete, I will be sending it up to management for their approval, and then sending you a copy of the repair estimate along with a letter outlining the findings. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns in the meantime. This was written on June 5th at 6 p.m. So on June 6th and June 7th, I tried twice to call this gentleman, Michael Stiefel, and left him messages with all of my contact information, and he didn't call me back. I didn't want to email him anything back because of the ongoing renewal and that. So once the renewal is established, we're going to really dig into the claim and try to recoup as much as possible with damage. And I think there is, particularly on the duplexes, on the smaller buildings, I think there is some ways that we can see some benefit from the policy, and that will also help offset some of these other expenses that the board has been talking about. So it's going to take a lot of work. It's a lot of nitty gritty reading the fine print, but I think there's something there. I think that they're deliberately delaying this claim based on that email, and that's a sign that I'm ready to do. So we'll see what happens.
Eric, would you say that in the future we'd be better off using the public adjuster than not the one with the insurance company?
You know, I haven't decided yet, because you bring in a public adjuster or an attorney. Back when Tommy was on the board with Irma, we were going to hire an attorney. And right before the board was signing the papers, the attorney said, "This will be great, in 4 or 5 years, we'll have it all settled and you guys will get." I said, "Wait a second, 4 or 5 years?" And it stopped him from signing it, and I was able to talk them into doing the right thing for us at that time. So you take that adversarial role, it could automatically be a 3-year thing, and that's, so I'm learning as I go here. There's different ways of doing it. Now, I think if we are right, yeah, we definitely are going to bring in a public adjuster, and we're going to find every little thing, soup to nuts, down. But to commit right off the bat, when we don't, you know, I don't know if it's the best strategy. I'm still learning.
I remember hearing during the right after Ian, there was a lot of commercialism about going with a public adjuster as opposed to.
They make money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wait for these.
I also don't think that's the best avenue to take. You need to see what the insurance company's gonna do before you attack them.
Well, and it's also, although when they deliberately delay the claim, like I believe this has been delayed, we're now almost a year. So that's where maybe a public adjuster would have helped us, but maybe not. I think playing the role of the friend type of thing, like to this independent adjuster, he and I got along pretty well, but he's not allowed to send me a rule. It's got to come through Heritage, which I really don't like that, because they can obviously edit it before they give it to us.
They will.
You know, so the whole process in that regard is a little screwed up. The fact that the report is 2,000 pages, it's taking them so long to get through it, even though they insure just about every community like us. We need to believe that maybe I am right, and we will be able to get something significant from them, because they would have no other reason to do so.
That's the cop wondering why we're still here.
Michelle, in my experience with a public adjuster, if you have an individual property, residence, they can work wonders for increasing the size of your claim. I have, over my years, had 2 instances, and the public adjusters were able to get me 30 to 40% more than what the insurance company came in. But that's a relatively small cleanup.